My name is Mike Karslake. I'm President of the Lambretta Club of Great Britain and the Lambretta Preservation Society. And we're going to take a short film now to commemorate a visit here by two lovely Australian people who've come all the way to see the museum. We're going to show you the earliest Lambretta right the way through to the last, including the car and the three-wheeler versions plus some racing machines. So let's have a look at it. All right. This little area here is typical of the service bays that existed in the 1950s for the Lambretta, and you'll notice in the background all the special tools that was required to do work on them. And one of the Lambrettas is now sitting on a ramp here which came from the original Lambretta factory. The ramp is in still working condition, and this is where we renovate some of the Lambrettas. This Lambretta is the very first Lambretta that appeared in 1947. This particular model in the museum was found in 1966, and at the time it was considered to be the one and only Lambretta remaining in the world of the original A models from 1947. And then we go along the line and we see a progression from A, B, C's, D's, and right the way along, and we'll eventually bring you along to the more recent machines, which are probably more familiar to people today. We've come along through the years of all the various Lambrettas and the different sort of models that were built over those years, and the ones we're looking at now are the ones that completed the production of Lambrettas. The white one there is the SX, very collectible today, but the very last Lambretta was the one at the end, the red one, which was known as the GP, and this was designed by the famous Italian car designer Bertone. Beyond the GP Lambrettas, the ones that I was saying were the last in production, we have the graveyard, which is kept in the museum for people to see the sort of state some of these machines come in here as, and they're renovated up as pristine machines as they were in production. Most of these machines are destined to be renovated or pulled to pieces for spares. This little bevy of beauties, the three-wheelers, show a rickshaw, a fire engine and a van. They're all Lambretta three-wheelers, but they're all slightly different models. And the rickshaw, there were only 8 of these built back in 1957. The fire engine, as far as we know, there were only 2 or 3 built. But of course the vans, there were hundreds and thousands of these all over Europe during the 50s and 60s. This is the competition section, and this machine here, this white machine, was one of 3 specially built for the Scottish 6 Days trial. It was very popular with people at the time. They all wanted to buy them, but they were only specially built for the works riders for the Scottish 6 Days event. The other machines in this race section are the sprinting machines. There's 2 of them there. Fred Willingham attained a speed of 112 with that machine back in 1967. And the one in the front is one that was ridden by Frank Oscarby, 3 times British record holder, and that one travelled roughly at about 130 miles an hour. This view, of course, is showing the driver's angle of those 2 machines. But rather than me, it's quite fast for a little 250cc machine. But that's what they were capable of. And finally in the race section was the machine that I used back in the 60s. And this machine took me on a race to Istanbul in 1962. 5,000 miles in 3 weeks. We won the event and then straight on to the 24-hour event in the Isle of Man. This competed for nearly 20 years in the Isle of Man in the 24-hour events, which were like a Le Mans event, and for a scooter and for the driver it was a pretty tough sort of event to drive in. This is still in good working condition, and every so often we take it out of the museum and have a drive around these Devonshire lanes in it. And finally, this is the last produced Lambretta, which was presented to the museum last year by the Indians. This is produced in Bombay, but it hasn't been a very popular machine in England. But we're very pleased to have this in the museum as the last example of a Lambretta. Well, I collected these from the boys first of all, then they got into fast cars and loose women. No, loose cars and fast women.
Oh, is that right?
And then I took the collection over, and but my work, of course, are these here. Come round very fast.
Oh, look at the bikes.
This is. You know, this is.
To get onto the model, or where we'd get the model for the, what's it, Tone, 38 Tourer?
Yeah.
Which 38 Tourer?
What is it, Tony?
Standard.
Standard.
I don't know who produces that.
It was Somerville.
Oh, Somerville, the people who make...